I'll let it mix for a while and we'll see what it does. But I'll show you the prep work upstairs as well.
Down there where it actually just moves back and forth gently.
Roughly what size of a wall will this do then?
The wall, you see the wall upstairs?
Stipple coat, it's a very thin coat of, it was NHL3 with coarse sand. And we thought at that stage that we needed to stipple coat all our walls to make the plaster stick better. Then somebody looked at it, had a good laugh at us and said, you just did a lot of work for nothing. So our future walls, we just leave nice and rough. We clean them back. You shouldn't have any sort of sandy, gritty stuff that comes off easily. Clean them back. If you leave them nice and rough like this, the plaster will stick to it easy enough. The way lime works, the way lime works is the free limes actually enter any cracks or any holes or anything in the substrate. So with wood, it'll always have fine cracks or whatever, unless it's very well polished. It goes in and it actually just binds with the underlying material. So as long as the underlying material is nice and rough, it'll be fine. If it's really, really smooth, I would, if you have smooth brick or anything like that, I would then put the stipple coat on first, but then put the plaster on. You'll see upstairs, when we go upstairs, this should all be, you'll see the wood is down, quickly damping down these walls. With wood, you can either put some screws in or some nails. If you've ever taken old plaster off a wall in an old house, you'll actually find the nails in all the wood that's buried underneath. So just put that there, that'll actually help the plaster stick to it. This stuff here is rough enough and good enough. The old bricks are fine. Like I said before, they absorb a lot of water, so you'll be spraying them a lot more than anything else. What else have we got here? What other materials?
Sorry,
Nothing really.
that's the wall that you were saying took a mixer full.
That, yeah, so that took a mix and a quarter, basically. And that was done yesterday by 4 people. And the finish is actually very, very good. You'll see 2 things here. You'll see nice smooth areas, and then you'll see quite dimpled areas. What we do is we actually apply, or I usually apply it in 2 coats. You can apply it in 3, but essentially what you do is your first coat of lime is a throw. This is what we sort of mentioned earlier. You let that bond and dry a bit onto the underlying surface. You can actually even leave it overnight or 2 days if you want, and come back to it. But we found, even though they sort of say to leave it overnight or 2 days, we found that it's much more robust than that. You can go back to it, say if you've applied your first coat in the morning, you can go back to it in the afternoon and apply a smear layer. Now, whereas when you do your throws, you use very small quantities, because when you throw onto the wall, no layer should be more than 3 centimeters thick. So if you're throwing a bit of lime onto the wall and the splat is more than 3 centimeters thick, you're throwing too much. Okay, so the thinner the better. So lots and lots of small quantities thrown on, and try and butt the splats up next to each other, so that's not completely smooth, it's a dappled sort of finish, I guess. And then the smear layer that you put on, I actually get a nice big handful and smear it on. And then you get a nice smooth finish. If your handfuls in the smear layer are too small, you get a real golf ball sort of finish. So that's just where I've sort of learnt, that's just, tips and tricks.
No trowel then?
No trowel,
just your hands,
nothing, just your hands, buckets of lime plaster, and that's as technical as you get.
When you say throwing, it's not throwing with it like what you would in regular plaster. It's
It's
your hand and
It's throwing. With a lot of these things, the older technologies were really just any Tom, Dick and Harry could do it. It wasn't highly skilled. Yeah, there were a few tricks to it, but you could pick it up really quickly and anyone could do it. So you get your whole family to build your house with you. Or get all your friends over it, in our case, in modern times. And I think that's the problem, is we actually got the upstairs quoted for hand-thrown hemp-lined plaster when I got so scared at the start. I'd done all this reading and everyone was scaring me to death. And the quote actually scared me more than just doing the plastering and lining it myself. And the reason being is it's labour intensive, but it's dead easy. And builders don't like that. There's no money in something that can be done by anyone, but as long as you've got enough bodies, you can get it done. And bodies are expensive for them, so it's not good if you can get someone to pay for it, it's excellent as a commercial venture. But if you want to get it done, do it yourself. It's really not that hard. Once you've got the basics, a bit of an understanding of lime, a bit of an understanding of plaster and the mix, and some understanding of applying it, you're fine. So that's what we do. Like I said, you want a maximum of about 8 centimetres. If you're very good at applying nice small balls in your first throw and you want a nice thick layer of plaster, you can then do a second throw, if you like, and then let that dry very well. You might want to leave that for a day and then do a smear layer on top. And then you'd have a nice thick layer. What I tend to do is 1 layer of throwing, 1 layer of smearing, and that's enough for me. Especially on the undersides here, if you put too much lime underneath, they'll just pull off with its own weight before it dries. Someone's got a window to do today, so we'll see how well you do. There's usually some sort of window disaster on a training day. But the nice thing about this stuff is that if it does pull off or if it falls off, collect it, stick it back in your bucket. As long as it's still damp, throw it back on the wall. If it dries out a bit, throw it in a bucket that we give to Nikki and we'll put it back in the mix. And there should be no wastage. That's why we actually have the wooden boards. Sometimes we use cardboard. It's not as good with cardboard because sometimes the cardboard gets wet and ends up in the mix. But wooden boards are great for anything that falls off the walls today. We'll just collect and reuse. There shouldn't be anything sort of left over. Anything that's left over at the end of the day that we haven't put onto a wall or into a hole or something that we do with it, we dry it, crumble it, dry it, and we'll put it into something else like an insulating mix or something. And you can keep it for years. Keep it dry, keep it for years, and then put it wherever you like it. Throw it into wall cavities, whatever you want to do. There shouldn't be anything left over or anything to throw away. Corners are tricky, guys. If you put too much in, you'll get cracking. It doesn't worry me too much because if you do get cracking, just the next time you do a hemp lime mix or any sort of lime mix, just smear it into the crack and Bob's your uncle. But this is straight on plasterboard, as you can see. And it's part of our test.
Well, you won't know till it dries out in, 3 weeks?
We did last year we threw clumps of hemp lime onto plasterboard and let it dry and then checked how well it was sticking sort of months later. Learned that you actually meant to, that you should put a smear layer on as your top layer. So what we did is we did 2 layers of throwing and then I let that dry a bit and then I tried to smooth it with my hand and it just doesn't work that well. It takes a lot of energy and you just don't get as good a finish. But yeah, so we now sort of, and this is what we teach, is we let the underlying throw layer bond really well with the wall and then we put a smear layer on top. You can see here what I did to show some people yesterday. I've done the same down in the kitchen. If it's really rough, this actually provides a key. And yesterday I took some of the hemp lime from the workshop and I actually just pushed it into a rough patch like this. And if you really had the time and energy, you could actually go over this whole wall and make it smooth. I don't have the time and energy. I'm just going to use a lot of lime washing here.
What about using a float now at this stage? Put it behind and float it? Yeah,
look, you can do that too. It's got enough of a key in places. Some places are actually smooth. But I'm just going to leave it because it's also a really good example to people of we should probably have the windows open a bit more than we do. We tend to close them a bit too much. But we just want air exchange in the room, and you can sort of see the wall sweating there, the wall coming out. So this wall was done in a workshop as well. This whole room was done. We left a modern plaster. It's a lime plaster. It's an old lime plaster with a smooth finish. We left it here because it was the only example of plaster that hadn't come off the wall. If you tap it, there's no hollow spaces. So we're actually going to clean that back, take all the modern paint off it, and use that as a bit of a smooth feature there. Can't see. So the old plaster that was on the wall was 2 layers. There was one coarse layer that was thicker and a thin layer of very smooth plaster. We took the smooth layer off, left the thick layer because it was well stuck to the stone, and we actually have hemp lined in a patch here over the old plaster that was well stuck to the stone. But we didn't do it over a smooth layer, we used a coarse, and we actually also chipped into it so that it had a good key. But that's a bit of an experiment there as well. So if that part of the wall comes down in 10 years, we'll know that doesn't work. But at least we'll know it doesn't work. For example, if you set up a framework, you could put like a sort of a semi-round, even a piece of plywood, thin plywood, that's been sort of sculpted, and you would just line it over the top of that and you would have an uplight. But yeah, anything like that. The other thing is, if anyone's artistic today, this is a really nice surface. You could get a little tree design going on it. I don't know whether any of you guys are artists. But essentially what you do is you probably do one through layer over the whole lot, and then a second through layer in the shape of whatever it is you want to make. And then when you come back to smooth it and to add your smear layer, that bit would be raised then. So, I just never sort of done it. Anything. Lime protects timber. So a timber that's encased in lime is well protected. So whatever you want to use.
Does it have a lifespan? Like, if you build in front of you, people on it.
1,500 years so far in terms of...
There was a main wing that was very big in construction back in the old days, and he says that your conventional houses that were built back in the womb, like they have an 80-year lifespan. He's building one at the minute that's very non-green, but it's a 300-year lifespan.
Yeah. If I was encasing wood in timber, I wouldn't be worried about it. If I was encasing timber in lime, I wouldn't be worried.
You won't take that long. To the...
Oh, what do you mean, the electrical cables? And
Yeah, say if you were to put the cables on the outside, can you nail into it and will it be alright? Like, will it hold?
Probably if you're not trying to hold excessive weight, yeah, you can nail into it, no problem. I have nailed into it somewhere. Where have I nailed into it? I can't remember now.
Say for hanging up a picture.
Yeah.
Right.
If it's not heavy, you'd be okay with it.
Yeah.
If it's heavy, I'd probably want to go a bit deeper.
But hang a mirror or something like that.
No.
You won't crack it though by
Yeah.
hammers. You won't crack it by hammers over.
No. The NHL2 is quite a soft finish, even though it's reasonably durable. We haven't managed to destroy it yet or kick it off or anything like that. And then you can see here with the electricals, we actually just basically throw around it and it gets covered up and it's fine. It's a small surface, so it's sticking well to the stone here, it's sticking well to the stone here, and then there's a smear layer over the top. So yeah, it's... Background surface is getting way too dry. Give it a spray and then let it soak in. Never apply on, a surface that has water film on it. Anyone applying to wood, if you're doing this part here, I have a hammer and a few nails. If you want to put a few just on this inside bit of wood here, I've got nails on the other bits there, but these inside bits could probably do with some. And then on the other side there, underneath the radiator bracket, I actually put some nails in the edges of these bits of wood. So if you're doing that, I can always do that if you like, or if you want to do it, it's fine.